Hello, on my last video I did a nice little browser automation where I go up to the point where I filled in stuff in a little field, and I didn't actually hit submit. I guess I'll demonstrate that to you here as we get underway. And I'm going to step through each item in a list of sites to prepare to do the submit. So this first click on running the automation is just to remind you that we have the login covered. We have the navigating to the correct location within the site covered. We have setting the drop-down menu to the right setting, filling in this little bit of example.com. Now, as you can see, the Analyze button, which is hidden over here, is not even really accessible with a resize because of this automation mode we're in. So my first step is going to be to increase this width to like 1400, 1600, nice and wide. I'm not going to really need to record so much animation or record things using CodeGen, so I don't need to leave the space over to the right for that recording panel. So I've upped the horizontal resolution of the viewport to see all the buttons I'm going to need. And then I might as well demonstrate going through a loop. We're in the data directory here, and in that data directory is this file called pull keywords. Now if I go to where that was written out, I can get that path pretty easily. Save as, and I've got a nice little path here. There's an extra thing called data-dir, which I'll also get. I'll go to the directory that I'm starting out in, which is the practice directory. I was already in it, but I was in that data directory. Now, when you're just doing these little throwaway notebooks, well, that's for packages. Throwaway notebooks belong in the NBS directory. Not everything you put in here needs to be finished into some sort of nice, clean, formalized thing. So I'll just throw one in and I'll keep it called untitled. You know, you can delete the untitleds. I throw in that little save as thing, and then I get the data-dir location. These are the types of things you actually should be able to type off the top of your head, because they're not complicated, right? I've got a data directory. It's going up one and over to data, and then there's the name of the file. So with open, and that's load from. It's got the whole path in there. It makes it great. As I like to use FH for file handle, and then you can print. FH for line in FH dot. And hitting the tab is actually a lot better now in Jupyter than it used to be. I think they've sped it up. So I think it's just single read line. You can do it like that. And it's a method, so needs a colon after it because it's a for loop, and you can print line. Oops. You can print line. Oh, that's not exactly it. We double check that it's the type of data that I think it is. I'm going to actually do a refresh. No, I don't want to refresh the whole thing. Yeah, read lines, plural. And there's an extra line return after each one. So you can do a strip line for line. You can just do the strip right there. There's different ways to do this. You could do a list comprehension around this to proactively filter it, but I'll filter it right there on the printing. So there's my sites, and that also gives me now the structure that I need for this other location, because you see your paths are the same. If you work like this, then your paths are the same. So I can take this, I can go into the tab where I'm doing the browser automation, put this stuff near the top as kind of a configuration variable. And now we go down to the automations I just recorded, and you can put for loops in there. That for loop just belongs right around there. You remember I did the example.com? So let me get rid of the that so you can see the whole thing here as we get ready to take that little thing that I just put in untitled, and it's almost that exact same thing, right? So you go over here, you go here, and you go to where you click the subdomain is set. You want to keep resetting the subdomain each time. But you don't have to go to the page each time. You're on the page. So this is really where your loop starts. And there are places where you don't have to use the async await keyword for every little thing, because the await statements are inside the loop. So that should be just fine. Now we have line, but instead of print line strip, we're going to say site equals line.strip, because that site is going to go into this location here where example currently is. We just put site. Oops. And to give you enough time to see it's actually doing anything, we'll put a maybe a 2-second delay between each one. And I think that should be it. This is going to just, it's not going to submit, but it's going to constantly put new site stuff in there. And I might need to blank the field because unpredictable results, you might make the string longer each time, but we'll see. Here's our login, our navigating to the correct area of the site, our expanding the menu, and our filling in the first thing, and then it should just wait 2 seconds. And if it doesn't automatically continue, it means I have something wrong. An error might pop up, but at least we got the first item off the site. And we look to see if there's anything I'm missing. See if health line changes. And chances are it's waiting for something and it'll throw an error, whatever it was waiting for, right? So let's see what it didn't find. It's a locator, right? So it couldn't find a I got to get better at reading these. Locator click an element. Yeah, there, the span. So clicking on the page locator here, list item, subdomain. So I'll just change where the loop is actually kicking in. So maybe I should blank the site, the field. So I guess what you can do is always take one of these await page things, which will bring up code gen, and just throw it in where you need it. So we saw the site get filled in, and then it couldn't go around to the next loop. And that probably means this thing here couldn't be clicked. So I'll put this in. CodeGen will pop up. And I am going to take this out of the loop. I think this is the problem. But I need to make sure, see, first dot click, that puts it on subdomain mode. So it's hard to not put it on subdomain mode. One trick here that you can do is you can just put the click to bring it all the way back to the page, right? Re-click on the keyword research link, and that kind of reinitializes things. So that's a surer way. It might take the automation take a little bit longer, but anytime you save, downloading 50 files is worth it, especially if there's the possibility for manual error. If you have to change things in the settings, I don't have to change very much, but let's take a look at this. In fact, I'm going to take that await out and see if that's enough to do it. Re-clicking on the navigation of the site, not my favorite thing to do, because doing that is one of the slower things you can do, but nonetheless, let's see if it gives us our instant success of cycling through each item of the list, because by re-clicking on that menu, so we filled in Healthline, you wait for 2 seconds, and now we click on, that's been the 2 seconds. Still doesn't do it. So instead of clicking on anything, we're going to go the other extreme. Instead of getting that extra click on the page in, we are going to take that out. We'll hit stop, forcibly stop it. The positions move real subtly when you turn that menu to the left off. Muscle memory can work against you in products like this. Anything with a visual user interface, muscle memory can work against you. So the other approach is to take both of these out and put them up here. And now when you run it, it's going to re-click on the field, and we might have another interesting side effect, like it could, as I was saying, append strings onto each other inside the fill-in field. And if that happens, we'll record blanking the field in between each one. Of course, hitting the submit, doing the download will serve that function, but before we start doing the downloads, I want to see us cycling through each item in a list. You kind of lower yourself down into the automation that you want to do. And there it is. There's the second, there's the third, there's the fourth. And so it's just doing each site. You can see that the next step in this automation, and it's not very big. Maybe I'll zoom in like this so you can see. The automation isn't real fancy yet, but we've got a loop going, and we introduced our first variable behavior. That's the important thing. There is now a variable behavior in our automation. And that should allow us to do the next step, which is going to be hitting that analyze, downloading the resulting thing. But because I only have so many queries I can use up, you can see I'm still on 138 of 150. So I didn't use any queries in doing the automation so far, right? I'm being efficient. I'm being very optimizing on the preservation of the quotas, because that's the valuable thing. That's even an argument for automation as opposed to doing this manually, because if you mess up and you have to redo it, it's really hard to do the redos the manual way. And yeah, it's the same argument could work the other direction. If you mess it up with automation, you can use up your quotas real quick, but that's why you go real slow now. Now that I have a loop, one of the first things I'm going to do is turn off that loop. I'm going to maybe keep a record of which ones I've already downloaded. I could do that by looking at the file name of the download, but probably better is I'll just do a real temporary database to keep track of which domains I've already recorded. And we don't have to wait for it to get to the end. It's going to go through 50 of these. So I'll X out of there, and I'll call that a success, right? We introduced this loop, this with open of files for line and read lines, stripping out the line return, and then filling it in as we go through a loop. And we tested that in this untitled as far as just that loop, and then we transpose that loop logic from here to here. And that's how we begin sort of shaping and customizing our automation to do something a little bit different on each step through a loop. Thanks. Follow me for the next video, which will be the download of one, and then I'll do the download of everything.